Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the CATS Personal Financial Management Series. With this topic, we have to issue this disclaimer. CATS is not a certified financial advisor, so the content or any ideas, information that is shared here is for informational purpose only. It's not legal advice, tax advice, investment, or financial or any other advice. So you should work with your financial planner and advisors to make sure your financial needs are met. Welcome to Rajadhani Prantiya Telugu Sangam Financial Management Series, Module 1. Anil Garu, can we go to the next slide, please?
Sure.
So today, we are going to introduce what personal financial management is all about. The speakers will be Anil Nandikunda Garu and Nalu Chitranjan, that's me. Let's go to the next slide, sir.
Yeah.
And I wanted to welcome our sponsors for these series. We have Aparajita Bamidipati and Alka Vora. Both are insurance agents and they provide these kinds of services. They provide all kinds of insurance, college funds, retirement funds, investment protection riders, including annuities and other stuff. We also have two very good financial planning and wealth management folks. We have Rajesh Jaji. He does investment management services for investment accounts, trust accounts, retirement accounts, and comprehensive financial plans. He's also running a 401k plan advisory for small businesses. So any of you who have small businesses, need that, he's the person to go to. There's also Mr. Mari Ganapati. He is a certified financial advisor, and he provides retirement goals analysis, tax savings ideas, allocation strategies for 401k IRA, individual as well as companies, college savings setup, transferring assets from India. That's looks like a specialty there. Term insurance selection, will and trust setup, guidance and mortgage refinance help. So a lot of capability available to us. And these have been very good CAT sponsors. So please feel free to contact their numbers. And if you can't reach them, just ask us and we will put you in touch with them. Anil Garu, next slide, please.
Sure.
So what is personal financial management? Our objective today is to really present this as a lay person. In other words, not somebody who has a lot of financial wizardry, but make it very simple so that any ordinary person can understand so that they don't feel intimidated. So we simply came up with this particular definition. It's really taking care of financial well-being of yourself and your loved ones. So there is a distinction there. It's not just about yourself, but also your loved ones. And throughout, as we go through the series, you will see what that yourself and your loved ones means. So through a careful set of financial management principles, tools, and techniques. So those are the kinds of things that we will look to, right? What are some of the good, sound, best practices, management principles? What are some of the tools and techniques? And we go from there. Anil Garu, next slide, please.
Sure.
So who needs this financial management? Of course, everybody needs it. What do I mean by everybody? Well, first of all, a newborn, even before they are born, actually, a newborn needs it. So we can call it as a newborn is from the cradle and then till you are in heaven, right? Meaning, even if you passed away, you still need a financial management plan. So what does the newborn, what kinds of things can impact the newborn? Well, you want to think about a savings plan for them. You got to think about an education funding plan for them. You could also think about a wealth building insurance plan for them. There are special insurance instruments today that can help do that while providing insurance for the kid, but at the same time growing that fund to fund their college later on in their grown-up years. Now, on the right-hand side, when you're in heaven, why do you care? And you know, these days we see a lot of GoFundMe requests that come through our community emails and newsletters and all that good stuff. There are simple things that one could take some simple actions that they could take, which will help them protect their family, such as insurance, right? There are some simple insurance to complex insurance instruments that are available for a family. The simplest could be a simple term life insurance where you're protecting your family from having to be on the street. Ensuring your will is implemented. What does a will do? The will says it implements your wishes. So will is really equal to your wishes. So when you pass away from this earth, you wanted to have some portion of your assets, your wealth, go to XYZ or ABC. You can do that through the will. And that's why you need a will. Then, above all, then you may have to also do an estate plan to transfer wealth without getting taxed or without getting it sitting in the court system for 1.5 to 2 years or even longer and paying a lot of expenses to do that. So literally, financial management is everyone from cradle to you are in the heaven. Next slide, please. So what we have done is we have come up with these 5 modules, but this is the spectrum of the financial management. Then we will introduce you to the tools, but the spectrum goes from these main 5 themes, if you will. Think of these as the themes. The first one is income, expense, and cash flow management. You have to be smart about these 3 things, right? Income, expense, and cash flow management. And we have a detailed slide on that. Savings and debt management. How do you do savings? How do you do debt management? And not all debt is bad, you will learn. Some debt is actually good. Actually, it will help you build wealth. So you have to be careful in terms of how you do your debt management. We talk about that. There is a special slide for that. Then you have to think about, as you begin your journey from earning few meager dollars in the early stages of your career, as you kind of make the savings grow, you have to worry about a few things. How do I protect my assets? These assets could be your home, your health, and your income and your life, right? These are all the things that you need to protect. And there are instruments to do that, and we will talk about that. Then the next one is the retirement planning and investing. So everybody eventually, after working or running a business or whatever, you retire. And when you retire, you need to make sure you're planning for adequate amount of money to sustain you in your retirement life, where you can really enjoy and not worry about where your expenses are going to be paid from, or where they're going to come from, where that money is going to come from. So that's retirement planning and investing. We have a slide on that. Then wills, advance directives, and estate planning. Wills, as I said earlier, will dictate where your assets and wealth needs to go to, right? That's what it does. That's basically how you express it. In a legal instrument, that's a will. Advance directives are the ones that you will see later, more detail on it, is how you are to be treated, particularly when you're unable to make the decision for yourself. That's what advance directives do. So it mentions how it ought to be done, or gives the right to someone else that you trust and love to take care of you in the manner that you like to do. And of course, estate planning is a big thing. Estate planning and trust allow you to pass on the wealth in a much easier way to your loved ones, and control those assets without government taking it or somebody else becoming a guardian and taking it, etc. So that's what estate planning and trust is all about. Now I'll hand over to Anil Garu to talk about the financial instruments.
Yeah, thank you, Chittaranjan Garu. So I will be going over the next few slides here. So first one, as Chittaranjan Garu mentioned, spectrum of the financial management. So we need some tools for it to manage it. So the first one is the savings and the emergency fund, everyone to make sure they have at least 3 to 6 months of savings, so that they can pay for any unforeseen medical expense or any of their home appliance repairs, or they want to replace the same thing. or maybe any major car fixes, or especially during the time frame now we are seeing unemployment, which is the costliest one right now. So to make sure we have something at least to cover our 3 to 6 months of expenses, so we need to save for that at least, so which we can use for an emergency fund. And at the same time, we have the debt is the other thing. So how we are managing our debt, whether it can be a credit card debt or a auto loan or a mortgage loan. So basically, the other loans also, you will be having a student loan, or some people may have the business loan, and someone taking an home equity or a line of credit on that. So, and we need to manage all the debt also. So first thing is the savings, and the next one is how we manage our debt. And same time, education fund, once you get married and having kids, so make sure you start having an education fund for them. So it's saving since as soon as they are a newborn, Chittaranjan Garu mentioned, from cradle itself. So we know when they're coming also, kind of thing. So there are so many plans for us, right now for the education fund, you can open up a 529 plan. There are types of 529 plans. It can be a prepaid, or it can be tax-free. Right now we can have a tax-deferred growth, and you can withdraw the tax-free money whenever it is used for your qualified education expenses. So what happens, when you are applying for a college, they will be looking at your, expected family contribution. And also whenever you're filling the free application for the federal student aid, so you should be mentioning each and every, your assets and everything, in that particular form. So based on that, you will be getting whether you may be qualified for a scholarship, or whether you may be getting some, credit or anything. So, but it's our responsibility to have, some education fund for our kids. And the next one is the retirement plan. So the retirement plan, we have several tools for our retirement plan. So make sure we have some savings, and then next thing is setting up for our future purpose. So especially the best retirement plans we have is 401ks. Most of the employers offer a 401k plan, and then there are some 403b, and we have some IRAs also, like a Roth IRA, and even a SEP IRA. And some people have the companies, so that they can take a SEP IRA also. They can open up a SEP IRA for themselves on behalf of the company if they are self-employed. So mostly everyone, it's ideally to save at least 15% of your savings towards a retirement. That way you can put in a 401k plan or in a SEP IRA, whatever is eligible for you, right? And in the retirement plans, basically you will be looking for whether it's you need a growth, or you need a safety, or it's for a future for a longevity. So as part of the growth plans, there are so many things right now you can do. You can invest in stocks or mutual funds or bonds. All our financial advisors can direct you on that one. And for a safety purpose, if you do not want to take any risk, you can put in a savings account, or you can open a CDs, or you can buy some treasury securities, or you can put in a money market accounts. And then, for part of the insurance plans also, there are some fixed annuities also there, which are all a safety kind of thing. And for longevity, it's basically our retirement saving plan need to account for our longevity, because most of the people, we are living longer now compared to the previous generation. So it's better to plan for our future. And the other side we have is the health insurance. As you know, in this country, especially the health insurance is a very important one, So it can provide the financial protection and for an unexpected healthcare needs. We never know what's going to happen for us in our daily life. So it's make sure everyone has the health insurance, and it can help protect from the high medical costs and whether expected or not. So, and also it covers most of the health insurance, like, we have some co-payments and co-insurances as part of that. So depending on your situation, so we can make sure whatever, like, suitable for you, whether you can have a high deductible plans or a less deductible plans, and how much co-payment you want to do and how much co-insurance you can afford. So next topic we will be on the disability insurance. So what this is like, basically if you are not able to work because of the disability, it will provide an income for you. Basically, you will be like, getting a paycheck, but not a full paycheck. So if you're working and something like, happens for us, any disability, like where you are not able to go back to work, so you will be covered with disability insurance. There are like two types of disability insurance. Most of them are like STD we call as a short-term disability insurance, or you can have a long-term insurance also. Basically, the long-term is for like, it will be once you are done with your short-term disability, then the long-term disability will kick in. So mostly like, when you have a disability insurance, your life will continue on, like, at least you're not stuck there, so that you can make your payments, so like, your regular payment for a mortgage or a rent, and also you can take care of your credit cards, and also your car loans or any other debt you have, you can keep making payments for that. So most of the disability insurance, it can start anywhere from 60% to 80% of your paycheck. So at least, which is a good thing, like you're not missing your paycheck, so you will be covered for that. And then the long-term disability will kick on. It can cover up to like, depending on that. So you're 5 to 10 years, as long as they're disabled, like, until the age 65. So after age 65, we have some other government financial tools which will help us for us. So, and most of the employers will provide us disability insurance as part of the employment. So it's basically, it costs nothing for us. Some employers provide it for free, and some of them charge very little for that. So it's make sure we have some kind of insurance with the disability also. And life insurance, and this is basically a big topic. So I think we will be covering up the life insurance as part of our financial session. So we will go over on full scale on the life insurance. So how much insurance do we need, and what kind of insurance do we need? So everything depends on the age and on your conditions, the health conditions, and typically and how much you can afford to pay for the life insurance. So basically the life insurance is like a most important one right now. So, and some people neglect to take the life insurance when they are in healthy. So the life insurance, you will if you are if you have any problems with your health, you may not be eligible to get a life insurance also. That is the most critical point. So everyone has to keep in mind on that. As long as you're healthy, it's better to take a life insurance, and it will be very cheap for you as long as you're healthy. And also depending on your family needs, you can have the coverages maybe $1 million, or depending on your affordability, you can take up to 2 or 3 million. And we have several types of insurances, whole life, or a term life, or some other things, you want to grow your money as part of your life insurance. You can even have an index life insurance also. Okay. So the next topic is the long-term care. So long-term care also, most of the people, when we are young, we don't worry about the long-term care. But when we are about 60 to 65 age, which is the best thing to have it for us, because whatever is not covered by our... sorry, any questions?
Well, just keep going. Sudhara Rani garu, mute everybody else except for the speakers.
చేస్తున్నారండి ఇప్పుడు కొత్త వాళ్ళు రాగానే వాళ్ళు అవ్వట్లేదు రాగానే వచ్చామండి.
No worries. Thank you. Keep going, Anil garu.
Yeah, sure. So basically, the long-term care is for whatever is not covered by our health insurance or a Medicare or a Medicaid. So that kind of like, when we need it, like, when we are disabled at the time, so it will be covering for as part of the long-term care insurance. So we have like, six of the activities for any common people, like, especially it's a dressing or the bathing or the eating. And some people, like, when you go up, like, it's a toileting or the transfer, like, getting in out of the bed also. Some people, cannot even get onto the bed, or we need some help for them. And also the walking. So if you're not able to do any of the 2 activities out of the 6, you are eligible for a long-term care insurance. So the insurance will provide you the support at the time. Basically, it's like you will get a home care, or you will get an assisted living, and also the adult daycare. I know some people very too old, they will be needing an hospice care, and also the nursing home. So all those are very expensive, but if you have a long-term care insurance, they are all covered, so that you don't need to pay anything from your pocket for that. And so the estate planning, I know Chittaranjan Garu mentioned a few times about that. So in the estate planning is again a big topic, so we will be covering on that in a separate session for that. So basically, like, how you want to distribution of your assets, after passing away. So make sure, like, whatever you earned so far, you don't want to give it to the government or that. So have it, like, pass on to your next generation on that. So, and also, like, the trust, you need to have the trust so that you can have a beneficiary, so that who can take care of it when you have passed away, kind of thing. And we have, like, they're like, irrevocable trust also. So it's like, terms cannot be modified. Like, once you write a trust on that one, it cannot be modified or amended, or, it cannot terminate it without the permission of the grantors. So basically, it's a beneficiary. So you need a permission to change on that one. So it's a little bit expensive compared to the revocable trust, but which is good to have it so that you know what is happening, kind of. And going to the next slide. And so again, so basically all these tools are there. So you need to have the mixing of all these ingredients in the right proportions, depending on your specific needs. So we are highlighting the spectrum of the financial management again, so where we are covering the income, expense, and the cash flow, and the savings and debt management. So again, we have the topics for the risk management for assets, health, income, and life. So the retirement planning and investing, and the wills, advanced directives, and the estate planning. So we will be covering all these topics. So the first and foremost is the income, is the one, how we manage our income and expenses. So what is the input for us? So most of us, like, we have a paycheck, which is the most important one. And when we're working, we are getting a paycheck, and that is our income on that. So we know how much we are getting right now. And then, if we are like, we shouldn't be settling whatever we are getting right now. So maybe try to look for something else, like, maybe a second job, or a source of income. So, I mean, nobody wants to settle for less. So it's always good to have some more income, like, on top of your paycheck. So, because it makes it very easier, like, so that you can be in a comfortable life, and you can have your income. And then at the same time, you can go for a little bit of luxury kind of thing, depending on how much you're earning at the time. So at the same time, like, how you manage your expenses. So income is the source, then the expense is the one, like, expense should never exceed your income, kind of thing. So it should never exceed your income, and then, monitor, like, what are the essential things that you need. Like, we wanted so many things, but we don't want to buy everything in one shot on that one. So it's depending on our income, and then we can plan it, what are the essential things we need, and what kind of luxuries that we need it at this time. And basically, it's better to live within our means, so that, we don't exceed the expense as part of the income. And it's always to trim the expenses, so that, we can have more cash flow. So when do we have the cash flow, like, whenever, like, we, the income minus the expense, that is where we can have the free cash flow, so that we can save for our future purchases, and we can help maintain the liquidity for an unforeseen expenses, especially for an emergency fund. So as you said, like, for our savings fund, like, for the next 3 to 6 months, which we call as an emergency fund. So we definitely need some cash flows, and also pay towards our savings and retirements. So this is what, like, once we have free cash flow, then we can start saving into, depending on the plans, like, you can invest anywhere, and you can have a retirement plan. And for your future, like, we were talking about the education plans and everything. So without liquidity, like, long-term investment must be liquidated. Sometimes, like, if you don't have any liquidity, whatever you have, your assets or anything, they can be, like, liquidated, and it can result in very, like, lower price and tax consequences, like, especially like anything related to 401k. So, like, if you want to take any money out of it, like, you have to pay the taxes for that, and then also on top of it, you will be paying the penalty too. So those are the things. So without liquidity, it's very tough for us. Without anything to sell, and you pay a higher interest rate. Like, if you need to borrow the money right away, so you have to pay a high interest. So that's the reason it's always better to have some liquidity for us. And so savings and debt management. So we know how we are getting our income, and we know how the expenses. So now we need to start saving more. So we already discussed, like, we need at least 3 to 6 months of living expenses, so that, we can have it for our emergency fund. So we never know, like, what's going to happen for us, like, so especially during this time, like, we are seeing, like, the unemployment rate is going so high. So if you are unemployed, like, it will cover at least 3 to 6 months. It's better to have at least 6 months of living expenses, so that we don't depend on anything else. And purchase the insurance. Insurance is a very important thing, like, for basically you're saving, and also at the same time, you need to take care of your family, and in case something goes wrong on that. And it's always better to pay off the high interest credit cards and bills, so that, you don't want to pay too much interest on that. So that is also a part of your savings. If you have a high credit card and high bills, so, like, make sure you pay them first before you pay the other bills. And purchase a major item, like, if you wanted to have, like, anything for your luxury, like, so you can buy it when you have some savings on that. And you can have your vacation, like, before you can plan for it, and you can save for your vacation, and you can use it for the money for your vacation at this time if you have some savings on that. And the next one, intermediate term, is like, that's for all the short terms. For the intermediate term, so especially for the kids, so we need to save for their college degrees. We know that they're very expensive. And if you're planning to buy a house, so we need it for our down payment. Or if you have a house, any major improvements you need to do, you can do it, like, finishing a basement or having a deck or anything kind of thing. And pay off your major debt, like, you can even pay more for your, like, if you have your mortgage loans or any other loans, you can pay off for them. And it's depending on the age group, like, finance a large item. Maybe the weddings are expensive for our Indian families, so it's better to have some savings for that. And if you're good with that, you can go ahead with and plan to buy a vacation home also. And for our long term, so it's better to have a retirement fund. So which will help us to maintain our current lifestyle. So once we are retired, I know we don't work, but we don't get a paycheck at that time, but we want to make sure we have our current lifestyle. So that will help us at the time to have a retirement fund. And purchase a retirement home. Yeah, especially, like, when you are retired, like, making sure you have a retirement home where you want to live. and start a business. So if you can start a business, you can grow, you can get some other extra income also at that time, and pay for the elderly care, and also your luxuries. So plan for your luxuries, what you need for long term, like how you want to retire, like where you want to retire. It depends on your lifestyle on that. So basically, see and especially all this is it depends on the time. Time is a big factor here. So the power of time is an important thing we need to keep in mind. So time can be your greatest ally or your worst enemy too. So if you haven't started saving for future, you have to start now, because there is a small chart here. If you can see that, if you start like investing at the age 30 and the age 40, you can see the differences. When you start at age 30 and when you start at age 40, how much is the difference, and how much you are losing if you haven't started early, kind of thing. So in this below example, we have savings of $2,500 per year for a 25-year lifespan, and also we're expecting only the 5% on our income on that whatever we are saving. So if you start at age 30, the total principal you invested is only $62,500. So 30 plus 25 years is you're stopping at age 55. So the total accumulation, we are only just, we are putting of 5% growth on that one. So it will be around 200,000 for you. Whereas if you start at age 40 with the same amount of savings you're doing, and you will be the age will be you will be stopping at age 65, and you will see almost only it's 60% only, you will be losing 40% of that. So you have around 125K on that. So the difference is the same person who started age 30 and age 40, he's invested the same money, and then the time factor, exactly the 10 years, he's if he started early, he would have saved extra 78,000. Or if he started late, he would have he lost 78,000 on that. So this is why because the sooner we start, it's better we will have more income in future. And the GoFund request, we are seeing nowadays a lot of especially we don't want to imagine anything, but we know especially recently we're seeing cats also on that. So which is we don't need to depend on any of these kind of things. If we have all our savings, and if we plan our future, and if we know where our money is on that, so it's better to make it as an automatic savings. So at least most of them recommend towards 15% of the savings, but minimum at least 10% you can save it. And you have the tools where you can save in your retirement plan, because you can maximize in your 401k. So up to the IRS limit, it's I think 19,500. And you can take the advantage of the time value of money. Basically it is a compounding interest. If you start saving $1,000, it will not be 1,000 in 10 years. So you will get $1,000 if you always, you will get an interest of basically 2% or 3%. It will be 1,050 now. And then the next year you will be getting the interest on the 1,050, not on the 1,000. So that is how the compounding interest will start. Okay, yeah, and so we have the savings now. How to manage our debt is another thing. So debt, not all the debts is a bad, because everyone in this country, we will have some kind of debt, whether it depends on a mortgage loan, again as a credit card loan, or a student loan, or anything. It depends on the automobile loan. So home loans and student loans can be an investment. So it's because they are the interest rates are very cheap on that one. So it depends on how you want to manage that. So you can pay off the higher interest rates, and you can have keep the lower interest for investments also. And bad debt is incurred due to the poor buying habits. So depending on, we don't want to buy a big item and then spend all our money on that. and violating the income and expense rule. Like another thing is like, make sure whatever the income is and your expense is, depending on that rule, you can manage your debt. So you can have a list, like you can assess your debts and make a list of all debts, amounts and rates, dates, like what kind of debt you have, and you can get a fair, because depending on your credit report, then you may get a very good interest rates on whether it is for your mortgage loan or whether it is for anything like depending on the credit card or automobile loans. And you better manage, if you better management, then you will have the lower cost of money, like, so that you can pay off, you can pay very less interest rates on that. So if you have your management, like, especially plan according to what the items you have on that, like, make the list of debt, then you can manage it depending on the, but make sure you pay off the higher debt and then keep the lower interest rates so that you can manage your money. And managing a debt, so pay off max each month, make sure, like, sometimes you can make an extra payment for your mortgage also. That way you can save a lot of interest if you can see your statements on that. And pay minimum to each and pay max to the highest rate. So it's the same thing. Like first thing is like, mortgage loans are always cheaper compared to the credit card ones. So it's better to make a payment to your credit cards and then later on to your mortgage loans. So pay off the statement balance to avoid the interest charges. So if you pay your credit card bills every month, the full, you don't need to pay any interest on that, right? So if you miss one payment and then like you need to catch up with the payments on that. So restructure your credit card debt, maybe like, taking if you have a higher credit card debt, you can be eligible to take some home equity loan and pay off the higher interest loans. So we have examples here and that, the good example and the bad example, like how it is going to help managing our debt. So leveraging appreciation of a large asset with time to your advantage. So if you are planning to make a down payment and you have a current value like a house of like a $500,000 house you are planning to buy, and then average annual appreciation of 4.73%, you're expecting like appreciate of your of your house. So the value of the house in 15 years will be like $1 million. So, and you are already seeing a growth of 500,000 there, so which we are expecting a rate of return of 11.33. So it's like, we are calculating against the S&P for the 15 years, which is on average for the 9%, which is a very good investment in the current life cycle. So it's like, again, it depends on the rental versus the buying cash flow, which is like after 15 years, assuming like, we have the 4.73% of appreciation. So the bad debt is paying minimum on credit card or other loans. Like if you have a loan amount and if you are paying a 14% interest, so example, you are paying the amount for $148 a month. So 43 months you are paying off, and you're like, and on top of it, you're paying $1,300 as an interest. So, and at the same time, instead of paying $148, if you pay $400, so you save like a lot of money, like around $900 you are saving on that, and it will be paid off in 14 months only. So these are small examples on this. And so how do we assess our risk management? Like, so what are the things that we need for us? So especially for the health, income and life. So what kind of things that we are like, we need it and that. So the auto insurance, which is a mandatory kind of thing for us. So which reduces or risk and exposure from property and life damage. So I think everyone who is buying a car, they definitely need an auto insurance on that. And depending, you need to look at your auto insurance also, like make sure you have a death benefit including for the driver, like on that. And umbrella insurance, if you are like, cover against your judgments, like if you have a lot of assets and if you want to protect your assets, you can take the umbrella insurance on that. And health insurance, especially like, even neglected. So health insurance is a very important part of that one. So some people even like, educated one, like, they neglect of taking a health insurance and then they caught up with the lack of coverage, due to job changes. Sometimes, it happens because of the job change also, we will be losing our insurance at that time, and then we will be getting a COBRA, or like we can go and buy some other like, plans at least to cover for our daily, the minimum health insurance plan we can take it so that we don't lose the health insurance on that. And the disability insurance, so the disability insurance, as we discussed, so we have like, the short-term and long-term disability we already discussed on that one. So make sure you have some kind of disability insurance. Most of the time, the employers only pay for that one. And if you need it, like, you can even bump up, for example, for that, as I discussed earlier, like, for short-term disability, you may get 60%. So if you pay something more, like you can get up to 80% on that. And the life insurance, it's a very important tool for our risk management and the wealth management, and which can be a great tool for tax management and estate protection. So we will be covering this topic again. So at a minimum, like, we tell everyone, like, make sure even, like, at least you have a term life insurance, even though you don't have other insurances like term insurance is a very cheap, and it's just affordable, and everyone can have it on that one. On the long-term care, like, once you are retired and 60 to 65 years of age, you will be needed a long-term care insurance. Yeah. Now I will pass it to Chittaranjan Garu again. Chittaranjan Garu will take care from here on to the next slide, sir. So, Chittaranjan Garu, Subbarani Garu, maybe.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was on mute. You able to hear me,
okay.
right? Okay, thank you, Anil Garu. I'm going to start off by reading something that I just got from email today. It's from one of the national Telugu organizations. I'm not going to say the names, but I'll just read it. So it says, so-and-so family needs help. Mr. XYZ was seriously ill and had developed liver complications. He was hospitalized for a few weeks, and after battling for 3 weeks, has passed away yesterday. He is survived by his wife and 2 children, and they give the names of the 2 kids. He was working as an IT consultant, and the family has no future earnings. Okay, I want to underline that. The family has no future earnings. Now, that's very sad. I mean, they are asking for a GoFundMe to help the family. And everyone I know, we all contribute because we feel, they're here, we need to help them out. We don't think a second time, we contribute whatever we do. But it's simply, and it all goes on to say he's the, sole breadwinner. And so, I mean, that's great. He's loving his family, but not loving enough to be able to actually take the time to pay. And this gentleman seems to be very young, under 40. And he's not loving the family enough to, dole out 30, 40 bucks, literally 30, 40 bucks a month. That's like one dinner out or one movie for the family per month. 30, 40 bucks, and taking a term life insurance for about $500K for his age. If he's in decent health and a non-smoker, he can easily get that for $500K. And that would have allowed that family to have future income. So I just wanted to, give the importance of doing a financial plan and having all the necessary things in place so that you don't leave your family and your loved ones on the street. So sorry for that tangential discussion, but I think it warranted me to bring it up. Now let's get to the slide here. So there are two things here. One is retirement planning, and the other one is investing. The retirement planning really is a very much dependent on what your retirement needs are. So some people may have retirement needs that are high. Some people have retirement needs that are very simple. So to determine the level of income that you need after retirement really depends on what kind of lifestyle you have and lifestyle you choose to have after you retire. So if you know and compute those needs, you can easily come up with a number that you need to make. It can vary anywhere from 60 to 80 to even 100% of your current earnings. So you should not think that, oh, okay, I'm retired, I don't have anything to take care of. That's not the case. You still need housing, you still need health insurance. If your need is not health insurance, it may be the long-term care insurance that Anil Garu talked about, because the needs vary and the different things come into play. So you must carefully sit down and compute what is the amount of income you need when you retire. So the factors that determine are your lifestyle and the time horizon you have, how much time you have, and then what amount of savings you have today that you can, or whatever eggs nest you're building. Based on that, you can determine what your retirement planning needs are. The advice that we can give you is, though, that contribute to your 401k or your retirement accounts as heavily as possible till it hurts. Maximize your amount that you can put into your 401k and maximize based on also what your company might be matching. So those are good guidance that you could take. If you have maxed out on the matching, you could still put money, if your company allows, into a Roth IRA beyond the tax deferred savings plan. So try to do that too. The good thing about putting money into a Roth IRA type of account is that money that grows and grows, it will not be taxed when you withdraw. Whereas the tax deferred savings plans, usually, when you withdraw it, it is subject to income tax. So know that. And then you have to know what your employer's pension plan is. Not many people these days have pension plans. Everybody has gone away from what is called as defined benefits plans to defined contribution plans. Defined benefits plan means it says you work, this many years, your benefits are defined. You get this much pay, yada, 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 right? Whereas a defined contribution says, all right, if you put money to 401k, I match X amount, or they will just put some amount even without matching, like 4% or 6% into your retirement account, and that's all you get. So learn what your pension plan looks like and understand what the payouts will be for that. Every employer has a calculator, if they have a pension plan, on what you will get at different ages of retirement, etc. Then the next thing you need to do is start educating yourself on investment options, and then you, based on your investment goals and your risk profile. So it's important to understand what your risk profile is, meaning how much risk you want to tolerate or can tolerate, and how close to retirement you are, etc. Kind of determine what your risk profile should look like. Based on that, you have to then make your investments. Don't ever touch your retirement savings. Remember, having that emergency fund and having some money to take care of things is very, very important, because in the absence of such a fund, then you either take money out of your retirement savings or your 401k, then you get hit with a penalty, and then you also have to pay taxes on that. It's not a good thing to do. Put money into your IRAs, traditional and Roth. We talked about that already. Of course, learn about Social Security benefits. It'll be a shocker, because you might be thinking Social Security is a huge amount of money. It's not. Even if you're contributing at the highest level of Social Security benefits and you maxed out on the Social Security stuff, the amount you get paid is really not that great. Let me put it that way. So you should learn about how much you will make on your Social Security. You can check on the website. You can create an account. You can check on the website and take that into account as to how much money that's going to contribute to your retirement. Of course, the biggest mantra that anyone can teach you is to save, 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 right? That's what you have to do. Of course, if you earn more, then it is easier to save, because then from your earnings, whatever expenses go out, and if your earnings pot is bigger and expenses being somewhat stable, if you don't scale the expenses to the earnings, then you will save more. So that savings bucket will be much bigger. So then that'll allow you to do a lot more things. Now, that's the retirement planning kind of introduction and advice to you. We will have a full module on retirement planning and investing. So this is just a teaser module where we're introducing to you all the complete spectrum of financial management, personal financial management, and the tools that are there. And Anil Garu spent quite a bit of time elaborating each of the tools. You have an idea now, but what you need to do is attend the rest of the modules so that you can really learn how each works, and then how to go about getting those tools put to practice for you, for your needs. And we will have the modules, and I will share the agenda in just a couple of minutes as to what the rest of the modules look like. Now let's talk about the right-hand side, investing. These are the set of tools to help with retirement planning or for wealth building, right? It really matters in terms of your risk profile. We mentioned that. It depends on low risk to high risk options. Low risk could be as simple as bond or a savings. You just park your money in savings. It won't go anywhere, but however, it won't earn much. High risk options could be, I don't know, like buying a Bitcoin or buying high-end contracts where there is incredible amount of risk, but also maybe a potential for high return. But is that something that you want to tolerate, and how much money you want to put in that high-risk options? These are all kinds of good questions that a good financial planner and investing counselor can provide you help. And we have a couple of those on our call today who can guide you, and we will share their numbers and information later on the last slide. Then as you go through these goals, risk tolerance and time, these are the three key things that determine what investment strategy you want to make. So when you start out discussing with your financial planner, they will say, what are your goals? And then you will, put a blank face. What do you mean, what are my goals? Well, everybody has goals, right? Goals start like, okay, I want X amount of income when I retire. I want a vacation home when I do this. Or I want to buy a Tesla high-end souped up machine, right, for my driving pleasure. All these are goals. So those goals are taken. They will sit down with you. They will take that information. Then they will translate it to how much money you need to save and have ready. And then they will look at how much you have, right? And then they will look at the time horizon and say, to get your goals from where you are to where you want to be, okay, your growth requirements are X, Y, Z. And that's kind of spills out or spells out, either way, what amount you have to save and how fast you want to save, and whether you have the time horizon or not. Longer the time you have, it's easier. Shorter the time you have to save more. So those are the kinds of things an investment planner will help you, and they will guide you in terms of your strategy on how to go about it, right? Which is goals, risk tolerance, and the time horizon. Then there are lots of instruments. We're not going to go into details of any of these because this will be talked in the module that we will prepare and present to you. It could be a mix of real estate, bonds, IULs, which is individual universal life or whatever, annuities, investment funds, mutual funds, actively managed funds, options. Of course, then there are the securities, futures, angel investing, crypto, and more. So The last bullet has the most highest risky instruments that there are. So this is just the spectrum of investing. It's quite a big space that you can choose your tools to really help you with your left-hand side, the retirement planning part of it, to grow your wealth and have a good retirement life. Let's go to the next slide, Anil Garg. Okay, I think this is the next slide, which talks about the wills, advance directives, and estate planning and trust. Now, we will also be doing a module on this. So don't expect that you will learn everything about these three things in this module. You are going to get just a definition of what these are and why these are needed. So what does a will do? If you have your possessions, they will be distributed to the way you wish that they be distributed. So you have your children, you have your extended family members, you have friends, you have your charities, whatever they are. And you want certain portion of money or wealth go to somebody, your will determines that, right? There is this thing called intestacy, meaning dying without your wishes being expressed through a will. That is called intestacy, right? This word here, this strange word, right? What it does is, if you die without a will, then nobody knows what your wishes are. So then the state or the government steps in. And then it could get really ugly really fast. Then all the heirs have to come and present themselves as why they ought to be part of the distribution of their wealth, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it is not a good thing to die without a will. So definitely, just like you would buy term life insurance, as Anil Garu mentioned before, everyone should have a will, right? Because you can name the heirs and others is important in the will. It also appoints a guardian, by the way. If you have minor children and you don't have a will and you don't appoint a guardian for your minor children, if something happens to you and you kick the bucket, you're in trouble, because the state will take the children and then they will place the children in their judgment wherever the children would do better. So if there are competing people coming in and saying, I want to adopt a child and I have a better home and I have a better income profile and I have better this, better that, etc., the state could award the children to somebody who could be even a non-relative. So think about that. Many of you, if you have young children, please do your will, okay? And name the guardian for your children, minor children. You name the trustee and or the executor of your will, who becomes your proxy once you die, whatever, and they will take care of it, right? That's the beauty of the will. Now, how debts and taxes are paid and what assets are used to pay them is also can be spelled out in the will, right? So let us say you have, I don't know, a property or an asset or something precious and valuable handed over to you in the family over generations and generations. You don't want that liquidated to pay for any settlement of taxes or expenses that you owe to others. Then you can protect that and you can say, I don't want that to be sold. Instead, I want my house to be sold to pay for those expenses, whatever, or loans. So you could do that in your will. We talked about already naming a minor child's trust in your will. If a trust is set up for your child, you can also name the minor child's trust in there. That's a little complicated. That I think you should wait on the trust, this estate planning and trust module. That'll explain that better there. Now, what is an advance directive? Advance directive is known as a living will, right? It does these 2 or 3 simple things. It instructs how healthcare decisions are to be carried if you are not able to express it yourself. For example, if you do not want to be resuscitated and bring back to life because you don't want to live a life like a vegetable or whatever, and you want to go away peacefully, you can institute an advance directive and put that DNR in there, right? So then they will not resuscitate you, and you can also refuse other treatments, such as breathing equipment, and so on and so forth. So that's up to you. You can determine that. Then the second one it does is it establishes a durable power of attorney for healthcare decisions. So if you become incapacitated and your wishes are not known and you didn't write advance directives, you could do at least a DPA. So when you do that, then whoever you give the authority to, it could be your spouse or it could be your children, you can name whoever that is in your, as a durable power of attorney for healthcare decisions when you get incapacitated, so that they will respect your wishes and carry out your wishes, right? That's what this advance directives can do. And if you have organ donations and things like that, you can also stipulate those things in the advance directive. Now we come to the estate planning and the trust. Why do we need an estate plan and a trust? Well, if you die without a will, you'll heard what happens. Even if you die with a will, still the government can put their hand in your pocket. And the way they do that is through this thing called a probate. The probate takes money out of your estate for settling this will and executing the will. The probate rates are different though, by the way. Probate rate without a will and probate rate with a will. Even with a will, you're still kind of diminishing your wealth by paying the government these probate fees, even if you have a will. So if you want to avoid that, you need to have an estate plan and a trust plan, irrevocable trust or whatever. Your financial counselor can help you determine which is better for you. It avoids ancillary probates of property in other states. If you have property in multiple states, then these probates in each of those states can be avoided by joining them in the trust. Your successor trustee can step in to manage your trust in case you are incapacitated. So if you have somebody like your spouse or your children, you name them as your successor trustee, then they can carry out your wishes for you, as opposed to somebody else or the government stepping in. And of course, taxes have to be planned for. There could be some tax ramifications even in the estate plan and trust. Don't assume that taxes are included, what have you. So sometimes you can use an insurance instrument to successfully to protect some of the value in the trust so that it doesn't get diminished if there is any tax issue. This may not apply to most of us. It only applies when you are hitting the thresholds of exempted trust income. There is a federal trust level, and then there is a state trust, income level, or the trust value levels. When you are at that threshold, this could come into picture. So you have to be careful, know what your state exemptions are, your federal exemption is, and you work with your financial counselor or planner to work on these things. All right. This is just a corollary statement that I made earlier on this taxes issue, right? So sometimes if you don't have certain types of properties, you may be okay without having to do a trust or will. And that's what I'm trying to talk here, right? So holdings such as retirement plans, insurance policies, annuities, and jointly held property don't go to probate because they have what is called as a beneficiary named in the account itself, and they go to the beneficiary without having to go through probate. Doesn't mean there won't be any tax implications. There will be tax implications. That's why you need to do an estate plan. So, but they don't need to be a trust if all you have is those kinds of things. But if you have tangible property, assets, and other things, they will all go through probate. So house, for example, cars, furniture, jewelry, all those things are tangible property, and they will be going through probate if you don't have an estate plan. So that's the conclusion on this particular slide. Anil, our next slide, please. Okay, what we did here is we tried to kind of come up with these 4 personas, and to kind of drive home the importance of what instruments you must use or what tools you must use for each of these personas. So if you are a student, you have no income, but invested or indebted parent, right? What does it mean is that the parent, particularly if it is somebody from overseas like India, they sent their student over here. Imagine how much loans or whatever life savings they have had in the hope that their child, is going through U.S. education, land a nice job, and then, all worries are taken care of. So they spend a lot of money and send the kid over here, 50 lakhs, 60 lakhs, I don't know, a crore. They send the kid over here, and the kid gets into some unforeseen event or incident or accident, whatever happens, and the student is no more. Then the parents have lost all that money that they plowed into the future of the student and their own future. So to protect that, the minimum thing that the students can do, and we have priced this actually, I think for 13 or 14 bucks a month, a 22-year-old male or female can literally get a 200K insurance policy to help protect their parents' investment in that child. So we really strongly urge anybody you know or talk to is a student, inquire about whether they have an insurance. And if they don't, ensure that they do, and have them spend that 15 bucks. It's one movie. I know a lot of students go to a lot of movies. It's one movie a month that they could protect their parents' investment and hopes in them. So it's a simple thing to do. Have them write a term life insurance. It's very easy to get. There are a couple of insurance sponsors on the call today. Just reach out to them, get this done. And if they're driving, they should maintain an auto insurance. If not, they'll get in a boatload of trouble. And get a job if it is permitted, right? Where they don't have income from a regular job because they are a student, then get a job if they are permitted to do so. Don't break the law, but get a job if they're permitted. This goes for students here too. It's not just for only students from India. Any student can do this, and they should do this because it'll protect. And in some cases, you can do, instead of a term life, you could do a modified, whole life, an IUL or whatever thing that they could do, and even build a little bit of equity into that. Now, let's talk about an early career individual or a married couple. Okay, it still applies. If they are freshly into a job role, they still need to protect their parents' investment if you're single, right? Or if you're married, leave something for the spouse. So you have to do definitely a term life insurance. Of course, maintain auto insurance. Definitely have health insurance. I know personally where I have seen several cases of even experienced folks right into the mid-40s, people who have been here for 10, 15 years working, and a lot of these folks are on contract jobs, especially in the IT industry. And when one project ends and they go to the other, I have seen them lapsing their health insurance and getting caught in between. You should absolutely not do that. If necessary, just buy an insurance that is not tied to a project or an employer. Buy your own, insurance in the insurance network, because if you have an insurance lapse and then you're caught, then it's a boatload of trouble, a lot of hurt financially, and then you have to do another dilution of dilating your accounts, other accounts, to pay for this health insurance, health costs, etc. So don't do that. Have an emergency fund. We discussed that. And start a savings plan. Even as early as first year in the job, you should do that. And try to purchase a home if you can in the next 2-3 years, which means you have to start saving for your down payment. That's what you need to do, because it has some tax benefits too. even though currently the tax benefits are diminished, still purchasing a house is a good idea. If you are a family that is young, these are the things that you need to start thinking about, right? Must have life insurance, term or whole life or variable life. Of course, health insurance. Start thinking about disability insurance for the mortgage. If you have a home, then think about including a disability insurance rider or get a disability insurance to protect that mortgage. In other words, if something happens and you die, then your mortgage payments are taken care of. So your family don't have to worry about it, right? That's what it does. Of course, we talked about emergency fund. Then you can start thinking about, for your children, these education funding or 529s or other plans to take care of their college funding. And we will be doing a special module on just this alone, education funding plan and 529s. Of course, you gotta be active in your retirement plan, 401k, IRA, etc. If your assets have grown to to some stature, it's better to think about getting an umbrella insurance or do umbrella insurance anyway. And then think about the will and AMD, because you have minor children. You gotta have that will. Name the guardians, right? Regardless of whether you have AMD or not, at least do the will and name the guardians for your minor children. And also, make sure your wishes are known in terms of how your whatever remaining assets and wealth is distributed to your family, charities, and extended family. Last one is the close to retirement type of family. Okay, these are all standard things. You could see that most of these things are standard. Your retirement plan, everything. So here, only thing we added is the estate plan, including a trust, and with a low risk portfolio. That's an important point. I think it's covered here, but in the slide, you will see that this is talking about estate plan, including a trust, and then going to a low risk portfolio. Because if you've seen the meltdown that we had, where we went from 29,000 Dow Jones Industrials average to all the way to 18,000 or something, and then now it has clawed back some to the 23,000 or 24,000, but still you have lost about a fifth of your portfolio. So when you look at your 401ks, I'm sure you have looked at it and you have seen that a 1/5 of your wealth has vanished, right? So when you get closer to the retirement, you may need to assess your risk profile and adjust your retirement accounts to include a low risk portfolio. Anil, could we go to the next slide, please? I think this is the last slide, and we'll go to Q&A right after this. So we are completing this introduction to personal financial management today. Then we will be doing the insurance module, why it is needed, what are the types, how to evaluate and act. And that's on April 30th. We'll be sending out a newsletter with a new signing way to sign up for this session. Then we will be doing education planning for kids, college funds, 529, the special insurance instruments to do college fund savings, but it's combined with insurance. That will be on May 3rd. Retirement planning and investing will be on May 7th. And last but not least, the wills, advance directives, etc. will be on May 10th. If you have any question, please reach out to us using this email ID, finhelp@theuscats.org, right? And then we will answer or help you with any of these questions and guide you to the right people. Or, Anil Garu, let's go to the next slide, please. Or you can, we will post this recording and the deck, and we'll send out information on how to access this. You can note down some of these numbers, right? And know these folks. Rajesh Jaji and Mari Ganapati Garu, these two are into wealth management, investing and those kinds of things. Prajita Garu and Alka Voraji are into insurance and also other financial instruments as well. So So we have a good mix of sponsors on this call, and I want to open up for Q&A at this point in time. And thank you all very much for your time. Let's go to Q&A. Sudhagaru, can you unmute all so that they can ask questions? Sudharani garu? Can you unmute everybody, or I think is each individual, can they unmute themselves?
Yeah, I think probably, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I think each individual will be able to unmute
okay.
in their question.
All right. So, folks, if you have questions, please ask them now. We'll try to get these experts who are on hand to answer them.
I just unmuted on.
Okay. Thank you, Andy.
Would we cover about the IULs and latter part of the series? Is it what it is?
Yeah, we will be covering those in the insurance. But Alkaji, you wanna answer that? Alkaji, are you still on?
Yeah, Hanji, what exactly would you like to know?
They want to just know how IULs work, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're part of our second series. I will be covering mostly the IEL part. So this is Anil, and I will work with Alkaji on that. So if you have any question on that, you can contact us.
Correct. One additional question, right? For the estate planning, I know you mentioned about the home. If it is on joint name, would it be coming into probate, or is it how it would work?
I'm not a certified financial planner or a tax consultant, but if it is a joint tenancy is there, it doesn't need to be in the trust, because the joint tenant will automatically be the beneficiary. The same thing with some of the banking accounts, right?
Yeah, 401k, wherever beneficiary is there, like 401k.
Yeah, 401k, there is a
correct,
beneficiary. Yeah. For example, I'll be very personal here, okay? So for my 401k, I set up my spouse, my wife, as the first beneficiary. In case something were, God forsake, we kicked the bucket together on an airplane or something, I named secondary beneficiaries as both of my sons. That's just an example. And that does not go through probate at all. It'll just go direct beneficiary to my sons.
Yep, absolutely. That's what I did too, as a second beneficiary.
You asked about the estate planning. The estate planning is again, from a person to person, what exactly is your estate and what your assets are. And, that can be, taken into account and then do it. For the will and the estate planning, we can do it, yes. But for the will and the trust, you have to have the particular lawyers, those who are doing the will and the trust. We do have lawyers in-house, who can, if you have a will and a trust and you want a second opinion on that, and if it is done well or not, we can still take care of it and let you know that this part is to be seen and that part is to be, rectified and done. But you have to go through a lawyer for the will and the trust.
For a will, it will be useful to go through a lawyer, but you don't have to for a will. There are standard templates for each state, some of the states that are defined, but it would be good to do it through a lawyer, because they will look it over. It may cost, an hour's worth of time, so $300-400. Or if you're comfortable, you could do using templates in the state that you are in. Make sure that it is, it's a good template,
Yes,
Yeah,
there
actually,
are
Nalu, there
templates
are
like,
a lot of online, just for will, there are a lot of online softwares available.
Right.
like Legal
Even
Zoom
you can
and stuff,
customize.
there are a lot of online stuff.
There is online stuff, but often I hear that it is good to have some, pay a couple of $100 and have a lawyer take a look at it, ensure that.
Yeah,
It has to be
correct.
registered.
It's depending on the individual complexity, right? If
Yeah, it has
you
to be
have a very
registered
basic
also,
thing.
If you have a will, you do it and stuff, it has to be registered also. So the lawyers make sure, it is matching your trust and stuff, because I did mine, I'm talking about myself again. I did my will and to Legal Zoom and all, it was cheaper, much more cheaper, you just pay 100, $150 and get done.
Right.
But when I got hold of the lawyer and they advised me to have a trust, and if it is like both of them put together,
Right.
it seals like everything up. Otherwise, it still have some kind of a.
Well, Alkaji, let's also give Mariji, because he seems to be actually advising on living wills and trusts. So Mariji, if you are there, please chime in.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. So again, it's purely depending on the individual position, right? Their assets, and if you are, let's say, if the person doesn't have much and if he's new and it just say only have a bare minimum, just a home and the retirement funds and the beneficiary defined and joint account. The only thing is, let's say he has just a minor kids. Instead of spending thousands of dollars to lawyer, again, it's a cost benefit analysis, right? I will recommend to maybe use some of the software. Yeah, I've personally used and analyzed some of them. I think Alka mentioned Legal Zoom and Quicken Bill Maker, and even there is a $0 free Bill Maker also available online. But again, depends on the individuals. So I then decide. I know if you have a very complex situation, I agree. We have to hire a state attorney who has a license to serve in the respective states, because the trust, you can do a lot of things. You can set it as a irrevocable, revocable, duration will, because remember all the verbiage matter, right? Every individual.
Yes, correct. Mm-hmm.
So the lawyers, and sometimes I know they charge $3,000, $4,000, but it's still, if you have a very complex situation and a lot of assets, a lot of complexity, definitely I'll recommend it. I have to work with a state attorney to do it properly. So like I said, there are a lot of different ways you can do, but I would strongly recommend, depending on the individual's conditions and the status, I think we can use a different solution.
Do we need to register these wills?
I'm sorry, could you please repeat your question?
No, do we have to register their wills somewhere?
I think it depends on the state. Some state it's not mandatory, but it's better to, if you want, I think for the peace of mind or maybe for continuity, you can register.
But I heard like if there is no complexity, if we do it on the website, then we can take the printout and have it notarized. So that is enough. That's what I heard.
That's true. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like
But but if it is pertain to each state, do we have to register? I mean, do we have to make another will for each state that we move to?
No, you have to do it only where you're living in the state, right? If you're obviously if you're moving your residence to some other state, then you probably have to do it again, because the laws are estate law, probate laws are specific.
Different. Yeah. Yeah. The simple answer is yes. I think if you move across, then I think you should refresh your will.
And just one more thing, make sure that only one will, the original will, is the one as the final say. So don't have too many. So always shred it. Once you have done the latest, I would say destroy the older one. Okay, so the only one is the one is the final authorized will.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah, one thing more, Mari, the question to you is, I'm not a will and a trust person. I, get it, from another lawyer, but maybe you can answer that. If you own, you can let me know if I'm right or wrong. So if you own a house, right, and you're making a will, you have children also, right? You are making a will, that it should be going through, like whatever the sources are, and everything should be going to the wife or the children, and and the contingent beneficiary and the beneficiaries both. You mention everything in a will. But
Right.
if you have a home and everything, it doesn't still go as you want, as a wish, unless and until you have a trust. That's what I understand. So we had to go, because of all that reason, we had to go for the trust. And the trust, the home also was, put in the name of the trust, so that, should something happen to the person who owns it, it goes to the wife, or next, the contingent
Correct.
beneficiary.
Yeah. If you want to make it absolutely sure, you're right. And go with the. But again, Alka, it's based on the costless benefit, right? But even in your will, I know you are going to assign your executor, right? Assuming the executor is a trustworthy person, assuming he will fulfill your wishes. That's the ultimate purpose. We are
Yes,
selecting the right person,
yes,
right? The executor. And again, remember, for if you have a minor kids, you are going to assign a guardian.
Yeah.
So that's why selecting your guardians and the executor
Is
very
important.
important. Yeah,
Yep.
very, very important.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions from the attendees?
Yeah, I just saw some email, I think question, I think it was Pallavi in the chat.
Right.
If you want, I think something related to the education,
Right.
student aid. So,
for student loans, she was asking.
Loans, yeah.
okay, yeah, for the medical school. So I did post in the chat window. So I would recommend for the college education side, this may be true for all the parents who have kids in middle school, high school. Try 3 different ways, because I know it's very, very expensive US. Correct? Even if you go for in-state, it's going to cost $120,000 for a 4-year degree.
Yep.
For private, it's going to be even more. I would say that's why try to plan your financial needs very early in the game, when your kids are even in elementary school. One option is scholarship, because that's the free money you don't have to repay. When I say scholarship, it's not scholarship from the college. I'm talking about even outside of the college. So when your kids are in the middle school, they can, I think, start work on it, because there are a lot of foundation, fortune companies. They have a lot of different endowment foundations and scholarship, merit scholarship they offer. So definitely you can start work on it. Even if you apply for 10, 20, there is a high probability you may get few. So that's one option. Then the other one is obviously your 529 college savings plan, whether it's prepaid or invest 529. There is another one called, there is a Coverdell plan similar to kind of 529, but a little bit different, because 529 offers your state tax benefit depending on the state where you live. Then the third option is the FAFSA application. So make sure that submit your FAFSA application, because that's one, there are three type of aids. It's called financial aid. So one is your income based, they call it a need based. So depending on your income, your assets, because remember part of the application, you have to disclose all your assets and liability information. Okay. So based on that, they'll decide whether your kid will be eligible for the need-based aid. It's called sometimes Pell Grant. Then there is another aid is called merit-based. This merit-based is specific to the college you are applying. Okay, so you will only be considered when you do this FAFSA application. So please don't forget to submit that application. Then the third thing is they also provide what they call is a student loan, because that's offered by Department of Education, Federal Student Aid. It's called the Stafford Subsidized, Unsubsidized, and the Plus loan, which is the parent loan. So that's another option, because these loans, based on my experience, since I have a very in-depth experience in this student loan from FAFSA, it has a lot of flexibility as compared to the private loan. These guys, the government loans are better as compared to the interest rate and the repayment options. There are a lot of deferment, forbearance, a lot of flexibilities to your students. So I would strongly recommend talk to the financial counselor in the school, understand about all these options, and try to support your financial need. Look at all these options, because as I said, it is going to be very huge expensive unfortunately for the college tuition and everything. So definitely the one option is never use your retirement funds to fund your kids' education. That's not the right option. So always plan ahead. There are a lot of options available. Try to minimize the pain. Okay, I hope Pallavi, this helps you.
Excuse me, I have one question on the will. Is it possible to include the assets from India also in this will, or only the assets that belong that are here in the US?
That's a big loaded question.
Yeah, based on my knowledge, I can take
right.
it.
Sure, go ahead.
But I'll double check with the attorney too. Based on my discussion with the lawyers and others, my understanding is the will, whatever we create here, it's specific to the state here. So if you have assets and stuff in India, my understanding is, remember, our Indian estate laws are different from US.
Mm-hmm.
My understanding, you have to have a will specific in India to cover that.
Yeah, as an expression you want to include, but if you include, then the problem is the probate and other things come in if you don't have a tight estate plan. My advice is you do your will in India and one here. And in India, when you do the will, the property just transfer because there is hereditary whatever passage of.
Correct. Yeah, the inheritance laws are different.
Inheritance laws are different. So I highly recommend that that we do separate wills for your properties in India, because you don't want to. If you have especially not filed any IRS filings and all that good stuff, and then you want to show up all the property in the will, it will raise some issues.
Okay, I would like to give you my experience. Again, I'm not a will and a trust person or the lawyer, but when I got this, my trust and the will done, a little while ago, I was looking for the right person who can do it, and I did it, through an Indian person, so who can, relate with me that, that I do have, some kind of inheritance in India, and also at the same time some property in India. So we need to, tackle that situation also. I think that is the question here is asked. So for me, when we did all this thing, he said that we have to get this done from India only, because we have to, the property, wherever the property is going to be, the will is going to, be only for that country and that state. So like I am from New Delhi, so it has to be, my will has to be done in Delhi for my Indian property and has to be taken care of in India itself. It cannot be taken care anything in here. But yes, before we, go from here, so we have to take all the information and the certified and the documents and everything from the Indian embassy here. We have to get all of them certified here. So that is what I was told.
Yeah, well, that's probably good advice. So we do have somebody in Kat's family who had experience of doing will on both, actually doing it here through one person who did it both ways. I don't know what the details are, but you can find people who are knowledgeable about here and there and can do it for you. But the simplest thing I would say is you do your will for your India properties and everything, and definitely register that will in India. Registration is important in India.
Yes,
Whereas,
without that, it is really
whereas,
use.
yeah, whereas here it is not required. It's not required, helpful, but not required.
Mr. Mari Ganpati, are you into the will and the trust business?
No, but I'm advising just like you. I have friends, lawyers. For trust, I refer to them. But before that, I kind of give the education about to the client about what are things they need to do.
Yeah, even I do it, like with everybody. In the very
but the
first
basic,
questions are this thing: do you have a will and a trust? Because it's very, very important.
all right, yeah. And but the basic, very, very basic will, I do help the clients using recommend them because they don't have no complication at all. It's a vanilla. Then help them to do it through the some of the online tools.
Yeah. I think for the general information, when we are doing the will and a trust, the last part, so if everybody wants, I can request my attorney to give, like be on the call and answer somebody's question, free of cost. So it's up to you all.
Yeah, we will work on it.
Yeah, it's up to you.
There is a good question somebody asked in the chat. Avika Garu is asking, can I put as a guardian someone who is in India? And initially I said you could, but it gets complicated. You need to consult a lawyer. If they can't travel and take guardianship, then it becomes an issue. But Mari ji or Alka ji can chime in, or Rajesh ji, whoever can chime in.
Correct. Yeah, I think, yeah, definitely. I think you kind of answered it. Yeah, definitely. If you're assigning someone in India, then definitely they should be able to come here. They shouldn't incur any visa issues. Otherwise, to mitigate the risk, I have seen some people, what they do is they put the primary guardian, the people who are here, very trusted friends. Then you can also remember add the alternate beneficiaries too. Then you can add people in India. But I think it's absolutely, they have to at some point come here, right? Then that defeats the purpose. They couldn't come.
Always have a contingent guardian also. It's not one person, it's not good.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Contingent guardian is important too. Yeah.
Yeah. Even in the case of alternate also guardians, they have to come here. Or?
If the person is here, if the deceased person is here, and the family is living here, the children are here, yes, they will have to come here.
No, primary is like in progress. I'm doing that right now. It's my friend. Name is the primary. I'm setting as my friend's name is the primary, but secondary is my parents back in India.
Yeah, you can put them, as a secondary and as a contingent person there. But again, here they are going to ask you for the ID and the addresses, which you can ID. I don't think you can provide, but the addresses, yes, you can give for India.
No, Alkaji, his question is the primary person, if he kept give the US person and the secondary as the Indian person, and in case if the what his question is, both needs to be attended here or only the one person is enough?
No, I think the primary should be fine, but the problem is something to some reason, if the primary cannot fulfill the duty, then we'll get into trouble with the contingent, the alternate.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, at least the primary can settle down everything, right?
Yes,
Yes, primary can do everything.
I can do that.
All right, everybody, thank you very much, because I think we are now bleeding into the other topics. A lot of questions are related to the other topics. I think we want to thank you, the sponsors, the attendees, for your patience, and for, I want to congratulate you all for coming and learning about this and trying to take care of your families. We wish you all the best, and we will see you on the insurance topic just 1 week from now, exactly the same times, 1 week from now. Thank you all. Have a safe and good night. Stay safe.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Yeah.
Sudhakar, you can stop recording, Andy.
Okay. Thank you. Good night.